old-fashioned, not modern, that youngsters would like it. There are, of course, coffee shops. They're becoming, if we look at the typical African country income distribution pyramid and associate it with our coffee waves, it becomes obvious that promotion of coffee consumption has to be focused, centered on the first wave coffee consumers. Coffee shop and the experience of drinking coffee set trends and make coffee drinking more visible, more fashionable, more attractive. However, alone, this will not create mass consumption at the base of the income pyramid, where most of the population is. To change things, know that there is a lot of glamour. It's modern, nice and cool to act at the top of the pyramid with sophisticated coffee drinking experiences. I love it. I know that coffee shops socialize the habit, create pleasure, and are practical. But they should be treated, when we look at the whole pyramid, as trend setting to take home the habit of drinking coffee. That's what's happening in China with Starbucks and the new competing chain. They're creating consumption in the chains, but they're helping to take it home. And that's why consumption is increasing 15% per year. It's not only at the coffee shops. It's at the lower income population that they're acquiring the habit. To promote coffee consumption in Africa, institutional programs by all involved in a coffee supply chain, have to address coffee drinking to gain energy as a habit, to keep awake, even treat coffee as a food, something that's good for your health. This is hard work. It's not always fashionable, but it is where real impact is. We have to educate for and improve quality of coffee. But my friends, quality is proportional to income, to the size of the consumer's pockets. And most consumers have small pockets. And I'm not talking of serving people bad coffee. People drive a Mercedes-Benz and they drive Volkswagen Beetles. Same thing with coffee and wine and all the other beverages. There should be a quality for each size of the pocket. And this is what we should go after. The private sector can do a great job at the top of the pyramid. And it is doing it in many countries, as I heard it here. This is good. This is great, because it makes coffee fashionable. But how to extend this fashion to make good coffee accessible to lower income consumers? That's the big question for you. And how do we make these consumers to wish to drink coffee instead of, say, tea or Coca-Cola or juice? That's the big question to change consumption habits. My friends, I have no question, no doubt, it's feasible to increase coffee consumption in Africa, as shown by other coffee-producing countries that are mostly low income and are increasing domestic consumption. And this is shown in the pie or pizza graph, when you look at the green slice. The green slice is growing and growing fast, and those are the producing countries. Many people say today that the future of coffee consumption is in Asia, especially in China, in India. The whole story, let's make each Chinese drink a cup of coffee. I think we should look into making each African drink a cup of coffee, and the Africans are near us. Listen, I believe that Africa has a big role to play in this arena of increasing world consumption. And this will have to be done with the help of countrywide institutional programs involving people from seed to cup. It's growers, it's the trade, and especially industry, roasters and retail, because they are the ones closer to consumers. We have to involve all, but we have to have the help of roasters, industry, and retail. Sometimes growers see them as enemies. I think we should, in our countries, see them as partners, because without them, we're not going to increase coffee consumption. The ICO step-by-step guide to promote coffee consumption in producing countries contains the basic instructions to develop such a program I'm talking about. The guide is now about 15 years old, and the ICO is moving to update it. But meanwhile, and to date, the guide is the best tool to help you, and past experience shows it. What has really changed is the way we communicate with consumers, with the social media, and so on and so forth. But most of the rest in the guide remains very useful. The ICO guide was the basis for and oriented the creation of coffee consumption programs in India, in Mexico, Indonesia, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Colombia. Other programs were created elsewhere, and different lessons were learned that may now be used in Africa. And I was very happy to listen yesterday to Fred Kavuma, and also to the ICO's economist Denis, talking that you're moving to do something along the ICO guide. That's a great thing for Africa. And it's interesting to mention that the program in India included the support to small and medium-sized roasters, because they found out that the big roasters were appealing to the middle and upper class, and no one was catering to low-income consumers. And that could be a way to develop small roasters. The other thing, the program in Colombia did not address coffee shops at all. The cornerstone of the Colombian program to increase coffee consumption was the corner store, the neighborhood store that sells 70% of the coffee consumed in Colombia is sold by the corner shop at every place. And that's where we developed the program. In fact, a survey in Colombia showed that the well-known, top of the scale, Juan Valdez coffee shop was only known by 40% of Colombians. And 80% of Colombians had never been to this coffee shop. So this shows that the coffee shop is a trendsetter, but it's not really where action should take place to increase domestic coffee consumption in a country as a whole. The most recent and successful application of the ICO guide was in Colombia itself. The program was released in March 2010 with the slogan, "You need to rewind. You need to rewind." And to rewind, what do you need to drink? You have to drink more coffee to rewind. The program had active participation of large and small players, roasters and soluble industry, national and foreign. Nestle was there playing a role. The strategic lines developed addressed coffee benefits to health and well-being. And we were not only talking to doctors, but also to the nurses and the paramedics who work with lower income people. It involved better preparation methods, value added in retail, and the creation of a support network. That's where we worked with the corner stores. Consumption grew 33% in 5 years to 2.2 kilograms per year. The lessons learned from ICO guide applications show that making things happen requires bringing the different coffee actors from seed to cup together. It's together that they conceive the program and create the strategies to increase consumption. Behind the program, there must be a structure, and of course, there must be financing. We don't do anything without money. Then you may be asking yourselves, who should start a program to promote coffee consumption in an African coffee producing country? It may be the government, but we always think the government is the solution to everything. And there are other ways. It may be the private sector, a player, a consultant, an association of growers, an association of traders or roasters can start it too. A convener is a person, an entity, a company that's needed to start a program. This convener should have the clout, the political influence to bring all actors together to make it happen. But one thing is to start, and the other thing is to do it. And to do it, we need the involvement of different coffee sectors, especially industry and retail. Industry and retail. I repeat, because sometimes we think as growers, we want to do it ourselves. Growers may want to do it later, but who has to move at the beginning is the big supermarket chains. It's the corner store. It's the roasting industry, and so on and so forth. And the first step in a coffee promotion program is a consumer survey to learn what's going on, to understand. And we have to talk both to coffee consumers, and most importantly, we have to talk to non-consumers to understand why they are not drinking coffee. It's two types of questions. To non-consumers, why don't you consume coffee? And to consumers, why are you not consuming more coffee? And I must say to you that I have not heard yesterday about countrywide consumer surveys. We have to do them, because otherwise we may be shooting at the wrong direction. We have to focus, because it's not much money around. Well, once the actors are brought together and surveys have been made, there are several promotion strategies available, like to disseminate the positive benefits of coffee on health, on well-being, on sports, that have been successfully useful in many countries. And we learned something, that before we only talked about coffee and health. Only people with white hair are interested really in health. Youngsters are interested in well-being, sports, and so on and so forth. So we have to have a wider scope today. It's not only coffee and health, it's well-being, it's sports, and so on and so forth. The other thing, to attract low-income consumers, we have to talk about making coffee aspirational to them. We have to talk of small packages that are cheaper. You don't have to buy a big package and not to take a long time to consume. We have to talk about new drinks at an accessible price and to use existing networks. One of the greatest moves in the well-known Brazilian program to disseminate coffee consumption. We went from 6 million bags to 23 million bags. That's 500% in 20 years. And behind this, one of the strongest things was to introduce good coffee in the bakeries. Bakeries exist in every small town, in every big town in Brazil, and they served poor quality coffee. So there was a program to make them serve better quality coffee. And that's what we started to do more and more. Well, education about quality involves training, coffee quality contests, coffee preparation center, not really only about top quality and sophisticated beverages, but everything else. And culture and tradition are important with the development of values and stories linked to coffee and how to update, modernize coffee image. How to take coffee drinking from coffee shops to homes. The third wave may have its role attracting youngsters, but not only high-income ones. We have to change the lifestyle and the experiences related to coffee of lower-income population. Preparation methods may involve the development of low-cost new equipment for home, not necessarily espresso machines, but filter. Practicality and convenience must be there at a low cost. There is a role for new products, modern and attractive. Low-cost single service, 3-in-1 soluble coffee, flavored or not, ready-to-drink beverages, and so on and so forth. Moving towards the end, when we consider promotional tools and activities, we have to bear in mind costs. And we must keep in mind that public relations, traditional, and today digital PR are must be the soul of promotion programs. We're talking social networks, YouTube, WhatsApp, and they are all key instruments to promote coffee consumption. We can also use influencers, well-known people who have the power to stimulate consumption habits and to create aspiration because they drink coffee. It's all there. There are also specific promotional tools, like some were mentioned yesterday here. Coffee festivals, they were mentioned in Cameroon and the Ivory Coast. Coffee quality competitions, quality and purity seals, educational projects about coffee drinking, training on coffee preparation, coffee quality programs. But behind all this, there must be seed money to help things move. Well, let's make innovation trickle down from the top of the bottom of the pyramid. This is my closing message to you. Institutional programs must focus on the base of the pyramid because others are already working at the top, and the private sector can do a great job there. At the bottom, we may have to involve government and the supply chain. Just for you to keep this in mind, when you talk at the bottom of the pyramid, the word is consume more. At the middle size, second wave, is understand better consumption. And at the top is third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave, as Judy said yesterday. That's experiment. And there is a risk there. I don't know if you know that the consumption in the US today increases the value of coffee drunk, but it's not increasing the volume. And this does not help growers. What we want is volume. We want people from bottom to top of the pyramid to consume one more cup of coffee. And if you do that, you make the African coffee business better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos Brando. Mzee Carlos Brando ni gwiji la kahawa na memsikia amemwaga
not simply in Africa but internationally. He's originally dwelled or based in Brazil, and I was so much touched when I heard him talking about his final remarks on asking people to start dealing with the matter from the bottom or the base of the pyramid, as all the rest of the stuffs are just built on the thing. But one very important thing that he's advising of the African coffee market to start focusing on the low-income population, which is going to form like a very big kind of market later on as well. This is Ktv Tz Online, and we have been dwelled in here, and today we are streaming live all the way from Sea Cliff Resort, Zanzibar, Tanzania, somewhere in East Africa, and we are so much blessed having such kind of an international event that Afca has just organized for us as well. And we got lots of guest of honors as well. We got lots of international kind of supporters from the kind of coffee framework. I got my brother in here as well, who was just trying to follow up on whatever has been said up here. My name is Simon Charles Kissins, and we got Saddam. Do you have any word like screaming up and trying to tell what we...
Yeah, I have something like I can say that I heard from one of the consultants of purchasing and assumption in Brazil, who say about how to make
more,
good
then everybody is
quality of
more
coffee,
happy.
how to
So we
value
consume
coffee, how to progress,
and
how
get more
to make
benefits
coffee
out
to
of
be
coffee. And I think
to
one
be
of
in
my
a
friends
good
who's
ways
going to
of
be
business, and
presenting some paper
how
in the
about
afternoon
healthy
will
issue
be
on using coffee to many people.
I mean, will be
Beautiful,
proving
that's
that.
great. And we're
also
still
another
having like
thing
the
is
master of the flow, and
Mheshimiwa
he's
Waziri siku
currently
moja
just getting
nimekwenda
ready to
Marekani
connect
na
up the
delegation ya rais
second
wetu.
speaker. And we are soon going to join up like a very good kind of presentation after having the first speaker being done. And now let's get back to him as well, and we get to follow up what is going to follow next. And it's bright day. It's going to be like an amazing moment. Let's keep listening to her. And he's trying to connect us with a very beautiful kind of testimony right now, even though it's going to be done in Swahili. Let's join him up as well.
Kwa hiyo what Carlos said was correct, that our coffee value edition goes outside to the outside world, and it's now right time that we bring in more young people, because as Carlos also said, that young people are interested in new things, and one of them is getting more friends, dating, etc., etc. Yesterday somebody said that you date over a cup of coffee, and I think if we really tell them usione so kamkaribishe kahawa, things will move faster. So after this was just a trailer.
It was a very strong kind of remark and a great testimony
about
trying
coffee.
to uplift
Now it's
the
time
African coffee. And now the second speaker is going to be welcomed, and this is going to be the chairman of Afca, and he's going to be speaking a little bit about the coffee kind of industry in Africa. Please just get ready to welcome up the chairman of Africa, and he has a lot to tell us as well. Good. The chairman is just getting ready now to start talking to the public in here, and we got the audience being really attentive and trying to wait for the chairman of Afca and hear what he's going to be expressing. You know, it's quite a great moment for the coffee lovers around Africa, around the world as well. And let's take time at least listening to the chairperson, to the chairman of Afca in here as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Our chief guest, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Livestock and Fisheries, Honorable Makame Ali Usi, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Omariti Mugumba. We have Joseph Sete here, the Executive Director of the International Coffee Organization, a sister from Tantrade, Mr. Carlos Brandos from P&A Consulting, the Chairman, Tanzanian Coffee Board, MD, Director General, other Primus Chimadio, and the Executive Director of Afca members, board members present, and members, the members of the media fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you greetings from the Afca fraternity, and from each of the countries, the 12 countries that make up the board of directors of Afca. And we acknowledge, I want to acknowledge the directors present. We have Madame Natasha from the consuming countries from South Africa. Natasha Wallace. Can you stand up, please, for recognition? We have Teya Lubnikov from Zambia. Teya, she's behind there. She's busy with our trainings. When we have from West Africa, Mr. Michael Doping, Mr. Michael. And then we have our own, Mr. Primus Kimario from Tanzania. Please stand up for recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, the African coffee producers from each of the Afca member countries join us here today to celebrate the first Afca Specialty Coffee Expo in Zanzibar. This is a significant milestone for the African coffee community, and it's the first conference to focus exclusively on domestic consumption and value addition to the coffees produced in African countries. Carlos, you're asking who is to bring the actors together. You have the answer. Afca is doing that. And let alone we use the PPP arrangement with the governments of Africa to take it to a further level. Thank you for that advice. But Afca is already bringing the actors together as a first step. So I take this opportunity to acknowledge the contribution and support accorded to Afca by the Conference Planning Committee under the leadership of Madame Latifa from Tantret. Your dedication and commitment to make this event a success has been noted. I request the committee to stand and receive our appreciations. The committee members of the organizing committee, can you please stand up? Madame Latifa, they are around? Yeah, please, you can. Those are the members of the committee who has made this possible. We have prepared a detailed program, Your Excellency. In the past 2 days, we had the African booth camp and 17 participants with 4 women and 13 men. 9 participants were from Tanzania. Ethiopia had 4, Rwanda 3, Uganda 1. And this targeted high-level baristas as a beginning point. We also had the hotel and cafe training, as I briefed you when we were receiving you, that Zanzibar is the center for tourism, and it has a lot of hotels and cafes. So we had 20 participants from Zanzibar, with 10 women and 10 men from hotels and training institutions, to equip them with an appreciation of the opportunities available in the sector from agronomy to CAP. The third one also, we had the sustainability program with collaboration with the Specialty Coffee Association, headquarters in the US, and it had 8 participants, 3 females, 5 men, and then we had from Uganda 3 participants. Can you please stand up, those who took the sustainability course? Rwanda had 1 participant, and Cameroon had 1 participant, Tanzania had 1 participant, and Kenya had 2 participants. And it was carried out by, where is Erica? Please, Erica, stand up. She was the one who carried out that training. And it's key today, with the low levels of prices, to have sustainability programs in all the producing countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the coffee industry is facing a crisis, with prices continually stuck at less than $1, with coffee surplus at record levels, and competition to export has intensified, with record exports from Brazil and Vietnam. The traditional coffee trade of exporting green coffee is increasingly challenging and detrimental to the coffee production. This situation requires a different solution. And we thought at the Afca board and the members of the Afca that we need to make the first step in addressing this issue. We must find ways to get the poor prices and assure our farmers stable coffee and better prices through value addition from the farm to the cup and increase consumption at origins. We must also promote more regional trade by taking advantage. Honorable Minister of the African Union recently signed the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which I think Tanzania is also a signatory, and most of the African countries, where we'll have free movement of people and free movement of goods. So we expect to use that to increase consumption. At Afca, we have participated in many forums to address this important issue and entered into partnerships like the one we have with the International Coffee Organization, the World Coffee Producers Forum, Global Coffee Platform, among others. Today we enter into the journey of promoting coffee consumption in African countries by ensuring we showcase the important aspects in the conversion of coffee from green beans into finished products. This conference will showcase the important steps in the journey to increase coffee consumption. At the policy level, we have invited experts to discuss the policy changes that need to be implemented to boost the policy environment that supports domestic coffee consumption, coffee industries. We'll learn from other countries, especially Brazil and Colombia. We have just learned from Brazil, from none other than Carlos Brandos, and also he gave us the experience of Colombia on their journey to boost consumption in their countries. We have lined up 7 key workshops to discuss the important aspects in the domestic value chain. I therefore welcome you to learn from these experts. And Honorable Minister, I happen to have been one of those Ugandans who utilized the Tanika factory. So Tanika, I think this was a long vision. Tanika factory was built about 50 years ago, over than 50 years ago. So I think whoever was in the industry by then had this vision. So it is not new. And again, in addition to that, we have other initiatives by the private sector. Mr. Emil Hamza, I think now we're in Bukoba. In Tanzania, we have 2 soluble plants. So that's the beginning. And in Uganda also, we have, as the presentations and other countries were made here, we have small roasters coming up, and we need to support them. I think Carlos Brandos gave us an example of supporting investments into roasting for small and medium enterprises. I think we need to borrow from this. So the Coffee Expo will enable industry professions, producers and traders to network, which they have already done and they have been still doing, meet and dissect coffee business, not only coffee but also machinery and other ideas with key industry buyers, participants in the coffee workshops and trainings, and enjoy the excellent tourist opportunities offered by Zanzibar and Tanzania. As I briefed you, Honorable Minister, that we are not new, Africa is not new to Tanzania. We first had the conference and exhibition in 2006 in Ngurudoto in Arusha. We held another one in 2011, again in Arusha. We are supposed to have had one in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, in 2016, but we have to move it to the mainland for reasons beyond our control. Afca had partnered with TSB to host international buyers at various capping events, and then this is to boost more, to look out for prices, good prices for our farmers. Plans are at an advanced stage to deliver a new training program on coffee entrepreneurship. Expectations from the conference. Through barista training, we hope the skills the youth have acquired will create employment opportunities in Horeca, that is hotel, restaurants and cafes. Technology transfer exposed by our trainees will help them appreciate the preparation of a better coffee cup. Carlos, we have just heard from Carlos that there's a lot of new innovations in presenting a cup of coffee. So our trainees have been exposed to some of these innovations. We have a gentleman from Lamazoko. Yes, he has exposed most of our trainees to this. Then this will boost also tourism in the similar manner. I take this opportunity to thank the government of the Republic of Tanzania, and the Minister represented by the Tanzanian Coffee Board, and the government of Zanzibar, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Zanzibar. I thank you all for gracing this event and look forward to an exciting conference and your active participation. Carlos Brandos told us the solution is with us, the Africans. So, Honorable Minister, with your lead as government leaders and government representatives, we have started the first step, and we need your support to move forward to achieve what we have just started and make sure that we drink our coffee. We drink our coffee, and then the others will have better prices, because then it will be the seller's market. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I thank you for that.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mzee Ishak Lokenge, Alhaji Ishak Lokenge, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, Mzee Ishak Lokenge is a prominent businessman also in Uganda, and he's been in coffee industry for nearly 30 years or more. And as he said, he was also dealing with Tanika many years ago. So you can understand from that he's really experienced in coffee industry. And thank you very much for a very good speech and introduction which you gave us about coffee. Now it's time to hear from Dr. Fred Kavuma, the Secretary General of IACO, Inter-African Coffee Organization. African continent has got 25 countries producing coffee, and expected is all are members of IACO, including Tanzania, and East African coffee producing countries are also member of that of IACO. And Dr. Fred is also from Uganda, one of the biggest coffee producers. With Ethiopia, I saw Mr. Bagresh was here. As you know, Africa has got two major coffee producing countries like Ethiopia, Uganda, and others. So Mheshimiwa Dr. Fred Kavuma, karibu sana, najua Kiswahili unakifahamu. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Natural Resources, Fisheries, of the Government of Zanzibar, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture of the United Republic of Tanzania, my great friend, Mr. Jose Sete, the Executive Director of ICO, Chair of Afca, Madam Chair of Tanzania Tantrade, and Carlos Brando, all protocols observed. Honorable Minister, it's a pleasure for me, and it's a great honor to join you and others as we hold this first Afca Expo that is totally dedicated to the promotion of domestic consumption in Africa. African countries import a significant amount of processed coffee from Europe, Latin America, Asia, and the Middle East. And there's also some processed coffee from Africa that is traded on the continent, but limited quantities of our processed coffee are exported outside the continent. We don't have accurate statistics on intra-Africa coffee trade, on processed coffee, but from the data that we have from the International Coffee Organization, we have information that over the last 10 years, Africa has exported about 11.2 million bags of coffee. That's between 2008 and 2018, 11 million bags of coffee exported on average per year. But also, during that time, Africa altogether imported 11 million bags of coffee. So it shows us that Africa has the capacity to consume all the production in Africa. In fact, the data from the International Coffee Organization shows us that the consumption in Africa now is higher than our production. So, Mr. Minister, if this is so, how come Africa is not able to take advantage of this great opportunity? And this is a big question that we have to explore and see how we can overcome the obstacles that we face. Policymakers, Mr. Minister, including you and our respective governments, have an important role to play in resolving these challenges, hopefully under the auspices of the African Union. In East Africa, we have so many entrepreneurs who have emerged to take up the opportunities in the coffee value chain. Example, even right here with us is Haj Amin Hamza and others. There are so many cafes that have sprung up. In Kenya alone, we have more than 279 cafes. These are just cafes, not even talking about restaurants which are serving coffee. We have a similar trend in Uganda and Tanzania and other countries. This, Mr. Minister, is a common feature in urban centers across Africa, the proliferation of cafes. This is a great opportunity for increasing our consumption. I was in Juba and I saw the coffee in the airport, a lot of different brands of coffee at the Juba airport. And I said, yeah, it shows us that in Africa we have got this opportunity to increase the consumption of our coffee. Mr. Minister, in my discussion with the Commissioner of Trade at the African Union, he told me that through the implementation of the AFCFTA, that it would be possible for us to address all these different issues that we have, because we have a lot of agreements, multiple agreements in Africa. We have under COMESA, we have under SADC, under ESC, under ECOWAS, and so on. And he told me that all these are going to be harmonized, everything will be harmonized under the AFCFTA, which means, Mr. Minister, those of you who represent the government have got to play a key role in making sure that this key issue of trade in coffee in Africa is harmonized and we can take advantage of this to promote consumption. Mr. Minister, there are so many questions that have been asked about coffee and health. Dr. Carlos Brando has said we should now talk about well-being. If we talk about well-being, Mr. Minister, there are so many fallacies that abound, which have been found by unfounded rumors, which discourage many people from consuming coffee, and some of them are deliberate efforts to misguide consumers. Some misguided campaigns discouraging people from consuming coffee. Fortunately, we have got now enough scientific proof and the evidence that exists to show us that there is a lot of virtue in coffee consumption. These are studies which have been done by scientists. We have been seeing peer-reviewed journal articles published all over Europe and in Asia, which all show us that there are health benefits in the consumption of coffee. This is information that we need to disseminate through our countries, and the government should play an important role in this role of educating the masses, because the private sector may not alone succeed in achieving it, but the government, through all the outlets you have, all the opportunities, it can be done. Mr. Minister, I will say as I come to an end that this year the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization is being hosted by the government of Kenya, and at the end of next month, from the 25th to the 29th of November, we will be in Nairobi. And one of the sessions that we have in the symposium, which is on 27th and 28th, is dedicated to coffee and health. In fact, the whole symposium is looking at the CFTA and how we can promote domestic consumption in Africa. So I would like to take this opportunity, Mr. Minister, to invite everybody here to come to Nairobi to hear more about this issue of how we are able to promote domestic coffee consumption in Africa. So I thank you very much, Honorable, and everybody else. Nashukuru sana, asante sana.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mzee Kavuma. Mmemsikiliza Inter-African, that was all of Africa speaking here. And now it's time to have Mr. Joseph Sete, the Executive Director of ICO. ICO is the International Coffee Organization. Kwa lugha nyingine ndio Umoja wa Mataifa wa Kahawa. Na if you compare it, it's Dr. Sete is the Secretary General of United Nations of Coffee worldwide. So the wall of the coffee is here in front of us, and he will give us all the things in coffee. And Mr. Joseph Sete, we thank you for traveling all the way from London, from Brazil, and it's far from Brazil to Tanzania. You should be tired, but you are taking time here to talk to us. You are welcome, Mr. Joseph Sete.
No, the other one is better. Oh, that one is better. No.
Okay. Thank you, Amir, for the very warm welcome. And it's a great honor for me to join again the friends from the African coffee community, and also our Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, to look at some of the you want to anyway, as Amir very kindly said, I want to put this discussion in a wider context. In September of last year, ICO members passed a resolution, Resolution 465, which urged the organization to take concrete steps to address the coffee price crisis. And I will share with you a bit of the work we have done in the following 13 months. Now, why is this important? Because, as you all know, the coffee prices are at a very low level. They're not at the lowest level in historical terms, but they are at a very low level, and they are about 30% below the 10-year average. And we divided our work into to address the crisis. We produced the first edition of our flagship report. It's an annual publication that will bring together an important subject and have contributions not only from our ICO staff, but also from leading academics. And as could not be otherwise, the subject of our first flagship report was the question of economic sustainability. And this is the cover of the report. You can download it from our website. I have a few hard copies which I will hand out to the high table. And what are the conclusions that we reach? I want to divide the report into two parts. One is a diagnosis of the reasons why, the root causes of the coffee price crisis, and the second part is a look at the potential solutions. And the conclusion we reached, and it's I think it's not a novelty to anybody, but the coffee price crisis reflects an oversupply of coffee in the market. 2 years of consecutive surplus have driven prices down. These are not, that's not the only factor. There are other contributory factors, exchange rate movements, especially of the Brazilian real, volatility, rising production costs in many producing countries, the increasing concentration of production in countries with high productivity, low value addition in coffee producing countries, and increasing concentration in trade and industry, and the financialization of futures markets. So that is a very rapid look at the diagnosis, and I will now move on to the key areas for action. And here we looked at 50 potential solutions, and in doing so we considered the barriers to implementation. Some of them are very costly in terms of political and economic terms, and the potential impact. And we also divided the results into the actions that the leading actors in the coffee value chain could take, the producers, industry, and especially governments and international organizations. Sorry. And we found 4 priority solutions. The first is to enhance market transparency. Second is to adopt responsible sourcing practices. Third is to create a level playing field on price setting and trading practices. And in general, to achieve a more balanced market. And these require enabling factors by the promotion of competitive and sustainable production through scalable service delivery models, the development of funding mechanisms, and ensuring multi-stakeholder dialogue, alignment, and learning. And here I'm coming to the theme of this conference, which is the role of consumption in all this. So we need to promote global demand for coffee in all markets, producing countries, emerging markets, and traditional markets. We need to remove trade barriers, and several of the speakers have already noted the need for the free trade area in Africa to really become more concrete. And we need to promote responsible sourcing practices and responsible trade. Now, as the basis of all this work, we need good data. And I always like to say, without a good data, you cannot take good decisions. And although I was honored by my friend Fred Karuna's reference to ICO data on coffee consumption in Africa, the truth is that we have numerous deficiencies, and there is no systematic consumption data available, which points at a severe data gap. The exporting members of the ICO are required to transmit consumption data to us, but in many cases they have their internal limitations and do not supply us with the necessary numbers, and we have to arrive at estimates from a variety of sources, which is not ideal. And without these data, a baseline cannot be established, and Carlos always refers to the ICO step-by-step guide on promoting consumption in coffee-producing countries. And one of the basic points of that is to make very detailed surveys of consumers and to have a baseline to work with. And if you don't have this baseline, you can't even assess the effectiveness of policy changes. Now, this all may seem to be a bit doom and gloom, but I think there are some very positive aspects that we have to look at. And this graph shows the global consumption divided into three basic categories. The light blue category is the traditional markets of North America, Western Europe, Japan, and we see that their share of total world consumption has fallen consistently, was at 71% at the beginning of the 1990s, and is now at 54% and will continue to fall. On the other hand, we have continuous growth in both the emerging markets and especially in Asia, and also in producing countries. So producing countries have risen from 22% to 31% in these 30 years, and the share of consumption of the emerging markets has grown from 7% to 15%. So these are very important trends that we have to look at moving forward. And I would just like to leave you on a note of optimism. The world consumption grows quite steadily, constantly, at about 2% a year. Now, that at current levels, that's more than 3 million bags a year. And if we just project that over the next 10 years, we will need somewhere near 200 million bags at the end of the next decade. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth, and I commend Afca for its efforts to distribute this growth also in Africa. The promotion of consumption in coffee-producing countries is a key part of the consumption outlook. I will close on this, but I have a video. This video was part of our efforts to implement Resolution 465, which called for to sensibilize consumers about the basis of the coffee supply chain, the producers. And you will recognize this is from a East African country. So I hope you like it. Thank you.
That has been shared out by this great speaker all the way from Brazil, and this is actually going to like hick out the adrenaline of all the participants. Please keep joining us, and you're most welcome to keep watching this beautiful video right here. And remember, this is a live stream all the way from Ktv Tz Online, all the way from Zanzibar, Seacliff, Tanzania, somewhere in East Africa. You're welcome. Keep enjoying it. was such a very strong kind of very short film that talks a little bit about the production. Aside of all beautiful kind of speeches that you have heard from lots of great men as well. And we are now going to join up with a different kind of speaker who is just being like introduced up. This is one of the great leaders all the way from the federal government, you can call it so. They call it the government of the United Republic of Tanzania. And he's soon going to speak up on behalf of the people of Tanzania, and we'll be having a lot to hear from. So it's a very special day, as we told you. We're just screaming out all the way from Sea Cliff Resort in Zanzibar, Tanzania, somewhere in East Africa. And this is Ktv Tz Online. And we are quite much more humble to make sure that we bring every kind of event that is happening right here. And aside of the fact that we have been enjoying for these 2 days, that means yesterday and today, we are also so much uplifted to have the great kind of participation of all the great leaders in here. And we are just joining up the speaker of the day, that means the master of the ceremony, who is currently introducing up one of the greatest speakers that we are soon going to have his attention right now. Keep following up, keep watching up, and it's all about coffee production, but also the most important thing is all about the coffee kind of consumption. We are talking about Zanzibar, Tanzania, but Africa and the international market generally as well.
We got Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. May I request the government, sir, and also request you, as our Secretary General of the Coffee Organization worldwide, that you should think of bringing the ICO meeting to Tanzania.
The ICO meeting to Tanzania, that's the kind of request that the master of the ceremony is trying to make tonight here as well. Yes, Saddam, you wanted to add something on here before the next speaker comes in.
Yes, so what I saw is a proud deal of the people from different places on how to prepare a coffee, and people are proud of what they are doing. So this is special issue in Africa that people now are dealing with. Is are very good on to agriculture, to make a processing of how to prepare, how to proceed, how to use your energy to make something different. Thank you, Simon, for joining me. That your presenter now is Saddam from Ktv Tz Online. We are here for streaming you live to hear, to know, and also to watch what is going on here in Sea Cliff Resort now. That is a very big conference. That is Afca Specialist Coffee Expo in Zanzibar and many other things. Thank you, Simon.
Beautiful. After very few kind of briefings, and we got to speak a little bit for like a very short notice in here. Please take time to
Africa
as well.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the third time to Tanzania. So it's an honor for me to be here. I just like to say that we encourage our members to apply to host the council sessions, which are held twice every year in member countries, and I would be honored if we could do this in this beautiful country. And just one little observation. The video you saw, that is available on our website for downloading, and it's also available on YouTube. So I encourage you to use it in presentations. Make the most of it, because I think it's a very nice piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Message sent. And you can see people are
thing that he's not in Tanzania for the first time, has been here roughly like 3 good times, and he was trying to share the idea that whoever feels like a bit much more touched with the kinds of videos like the one that he was just trying to play right here, you are more than welcome to go down to the website and try to download some few, but you can also go down to the YouTube channel and check it out, okay? And for the time being, we're going to join up with the next speaker, and the Master of Ceremony is trying to connect up us. So we are firstly going to have a very important leader from the government of Tanzania, who is going to take a bit of time going to say hi, but also trying to connect us direct to the guest of honor today. Guys, thank you very much. Remember, this is Ktv Tz Online. My name is Simon Charles Kisinza, and you're most welcome to keep following up every single kind of movement that is happening. And currently, we are going to have the Deputy Minister all the way from the government of Tanzania, who was just going to say hi, but also connecting us to the guest of honor.
Dr. Makame Aliusi, Deputy Minister of Ministry of Agriculture, National Resource, Livestock and Fisheries, Zanzibar, Al-Haj Lukenge, Chairman of Africa Fine Coffee Alliance, Deputy Director of Tan Trade, Latifa Hamisi, Dr. Freddy Kavuma, Secretary General of African Fine Coffee Alliance, Jose Sete, Executive Director of International Coffee Organization, Carlos Blando, Chairman of Global Coffee Platform. All protocol is observed. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Dear coffee lovers, I'm delighted to be here with you today for official opening for this very first expo here in the Spice Island of Zanzibar, and congratulate the organizer of AFSA for your decision to choose Zanzibar to be the first place to hold this very first expo. On behalf of my fellow Tanzanian, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all in Tanzania, especially Zanzibar, the land of tourist hub of Africa, home of hospitality, loves and kindness. As you see, since you are here in Zanzibar, you see the people of Zanzibar, hospitality and kindness. Most welcome. And also thanks to organizer team for their kindness, especially for organizing a lot of different variety of coffee from different of the world. We drink a lot and we get favorable. And this, I think, it is going on the same theme of this occasion for promoting local consumption of coffee. On behalf of my fellow Tanzanian, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all in Tanzania, and I hope you will enjoy your stay throughout the Expo and beyond. Tanzania is the land of the highest mountains in Africa, the second largest mountain in the world, Mount Kilimanjaro, and also the land of Ngorongoro National Park, Serengeti National Park, Mikumi National Park, and Selous National Game Reserve. I hope before your departure here in Tanzania, you'll find one of attractive this to, I think, to be there to enjoy Tanzanians. We are Tanzania, and like other coffee producers in the world, we are number 4 producer of coffee in Africa and one of the best coffee global producer. But we are consuming very little, hence leaving the fate of producer in the vagaries of price volatility. In effort to promote local consumption, the government of Tanzania has taken an active role in promoting value addition for our coffee crop, and now we have two of the biggest instant coffee producing factory in Africa, which capacity more than 60,700 in both. One of them is owned by our fellow here, Mr. Emila Hamza, and another one is owned, partnered by government of Tanzania and the other cooperative union called the Tanika. This expo is held at critical time for this important commodity, coffee. Price has experienced a continuous downward trend since 2016, dropping 30% below the average of last 10 years. Coffee growers worldwide are struggling to cover their operating expenses while input compliance and transaction costs continue to rise. Consequently, farm income have declined and the livelihood of many coffee producing households, the majority of which are smallholder accounting to 90% of Tanzania production, are increasing at risk. The decline in coffee price has severe economic and social catastrophe, not only to our producer in Tanzania, but also for other coffee producing countries. Hence, the focus on local market will, among others, alleviate dependence on export market and promote industrialization in producing countries, thus promote our economy. In order to capture this big market in our country, we needed to make sure that what our farmers produce is for good quality and quantity to meet the growing demand. Now, in our country, we are in the transforming program to change the subsistence farming to commercial farming in order to address the challenge, traditional challenge, since before that we feel that we have two categories of crops. One is for food, another one for cash crop. This is traditional mind. They went to our people, they see that maybe when he producing coffee, it is not for consumption. They producing coffee, it's only for exporting for cash crops. So that traditional mind, that means they went in deep in our society. They didn't so much consuming this coffee. So now we are in that program, at least to address that challenge. We say there is no category of cash crops or food crops. All the crops is for commercial purpose. So even coffee, even maize, they are going to produce for commercial purpose and also for local consumption. Finally, I wish to acknowledge the support provided by the revolutionary government of Zanzibar in making sure this event is a success. I think all of us, we agree on that. We see how the government of Zanzibar, they did a lot to this occasion. Before I conclude I want to say something. Most of African countries, including Tanzania, we do like to consume what we do not produce and produce what we cannot consume. Now is the time for African country to maximize consumption for what we produced. Start of today onwards, to start of as we are here to develop Tanzania economic, even African economic, to start to drink coffee produced in Tanzania, to drink coffee produced in Africa to buy any product produced in Tanzania. Thank you very much for listening.
From His Excellence, the Deputy Minister from the Ministry concerned with agricultural activities, all the way from the Tanzanian government, and he did quite great job. I'm talking about Mr. Mgumba. And currently he's relied with one more very important task of welcoming up the guest of honor of this kind of event. Let's listen to him now welcoming in the guest of honor, Dr. Makame Ali Usi, who is also the Deputy Minister from the Ministry responsible with culture, with agriculture, from the government of Zanzibar. And remember, he is here on behalf of the required kind of guest of honor. I'm talking about Her Excellence Ambassador Amina Salum Ali. And today we are having this very beautiful kind of moment, having the guest of honor ready to speak to the public. So it's just getting hot, beloved, right here. It's quite an exciting kind of moment. Please, let's take time listening to the guest of honor to this beautiful event.
First of all, I would like to say hello and good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, Honorable Omar Mgumba, Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Tanzania, Mr. Amir Hamza, Chairman of Board of Directors, Tanzania Coffee Board, Madam Latifa Hamis, Deputy Director General, TanTrade, Mr. Ishaq Lukenge, Chairman of AFCA, Dr. Fred Kaguma, Secretary General of IACO, Mr. Jose Said, Executive Director, ICO, members of African Coffee Association, member of the media present, and invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm greatly honored to stand right here in front of you to officially open this very rewarding occasion. So to begin with, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation on behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania to Zanzibar, to the Zanzibar Specialty Coffee Expo Committee, to the value consideration given to this event to deliver the moral support to make the event successful. I would like to mention the institutions involved to make this event successful as follows. First of all, Zanzibar Revolutionary Government, President's Office, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Zanzibar, Department of Foreign Affairs, Zanzibar, TanTrade, TRA, Tanzania Revenue Authority, VTA, Zanzibar, Zanzibar Airport Authority, Police, Zanzibar Association of Tours Operators, and SMIDA. Similarly, on the same note, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for the value and consideration given to me to deliver the welcoming note and officiate this event. I'm very glad to welcome all of you, the participants and members of the African Fine Coffee Association in Zanzibar, Tanzania, and I would like to wish all of you a pleasant stay in Zanzibar and a successful event. Ladies and gentlemen, this event has attracted many coffee industry players such as baristas, roasters, coffee cafe owners, importers, and machine and equipment suppliers, among others. This is because of the significance of this event to the development of coffee industry. This event has been composed with various activities, including exhibition, as we have seen, which has been the heart of the event, whereas cafes, roasters, and importers from consumer coffee market has showcased their coffee and built their brands while setting up direct trade relationship with coffee producers in Africa. Moreover, coffee trainings, workshops, and talks by industry experts has taken place, and it has enabled interactive participation, learning, and business growth opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, coffee is a very famous beverage in the world and is a key export crop in Tanzania and is a significant contributor to the Tanzania foreign exchange earnings. Coffee is also a significant contributor to the rural development and employment, and an important vehicle for rural development, seeing that coffee industry provide direct income to more than 400,000 farm households, thus supporting the livelihood of an estimated 2.4 million individuals. This event has offered a unique opportunity to actualize the development of new export markets in Africa. May I, therefore, take this opportunity to inform you that in Zanzibar, we have a long history of drinking coffee. As said by one of my friends there, we drink coffee with halwa and kashata. You will not be surprised seeing people in the streets drinking coffee with halwa and kashata. If you walk along in Zanzibar streets, you will find gahawa, we call it gahawa center, which are coffee selling centers crowded with coffee drinkers. Coffee drinking has been a major part of Zanzibar culture. It is my conviction that this expo will open doors for Zanzibar coffee industry in terms of employment opportunities and capacitate hoteliers, university and local people with barista skills. I call upon Tanzanian Coffee Board to open formal coffee centers along Zanzibar streets and villages, as well as managing sustainable availability of quality coffee throughout the value chain. My call, wito wangu, my call to the public, to all of you and to the public, that let's be coffeecal. I know the word coffeecal is not there, but I have just invented it. Coffeecal, a coffeecal, yani, to be to move coffee wise. So let's be coffeecal. Let's do let us do both. I mean, increase production and increase productivity, increase consumption, and increase coffee trade for our economic betterment of our country. Having said that, I warmly welcome you to visit our beautiful Spice Islands, our beautiful hotel in the beaches, white sand beaches all over Zanzibar, and enjoy a beautiful beaches that I have said, enjoy a unique culture of Zanzibar. Karibuni sana. Asanteni.
Asante sana mheshimiwa.
Asante. Hi. I think having said that, I would rather like to say that I declare this very fruitful occasion open.
Asante sana mheshimiwa. Na pia mheshimiwa, tutakuomba pamoja na meza kuu
It was such a very beautiful kind of speech from the guest of honor of the today's event, His Honorable Makame Ali Ossi. Aside of the beautiful kind of conversation that we don't simply have to focus on the consumption and forgetting completely the side of production. That was the greatest kind of remark that you can at least recall from what he has been talking a little bit about it. And aside of everything that the promises he was trying to make, that the government will be trying to do whatever possible to make sure that they have the platform of everything that needs to be like made available by the government. But he's also welcoming everybody from wherever to make sure that they come and enjoy Zanzibar. That's one thing, which is very good as well from the government kind of perspective. But what follows next is going to be the distribution of special certificates that have been prepared by Afca. And that's going to be the next kind of thing. So the guest of honor is also going to be like one of the people responsible for that. But currently we are having the director of Afca, and he's the one like trying to introduce what's going to be the thing like. And as he will be busy trying to read the names of the people responsible to come and get up the certificates, please let's join him up as well. Very good. We got different winners in different categories, and this is what is happening right now. They're just turning up to go and receive their certificates of like being the best in different kind of fields. And as I told you, we started this since yesterday, and today they're all like enjoying up the glory, and we are just following up what is happening. 3 have taken, and the 4th one is coming right now, and chief executive is trying to read up the names, and they're all turning up to go and get up their certificates. Okay. The 5th winner, and now we're going to the number 6 winner. Beautiful Kilimanjaro Plantation Limited is the one coming to take a certificate now, and that's the 6th winner number 6. Tanzanian plantation. You know, they're trying to make sure that we keep on helping both areas, the production, but also helping the other side to make sure that the consumption is rising up. And we had a bit of problem. We also have got to seek for an apology, and now they're just changing up the microphone, and I think the voice or the sound is going to be very good as well. Now we can just follow up as well.
The company is from Zambia, Kachipapa, so we like representative from Zambia to pick this for them. This is on a regional basis. Number 5 was UCCA. Oh, must be Cameroonian. Number 4 was Oram Estate Honey Process, also from Zambia. On a regional basis, number 3 overall in Africa is Mambo Coffee, Usambara Cooperative. Mambo Coffee was number 3. Number 2, Oram Estate for the natural gold that they presented. Yeah. And the best coffee, from this harvest, the best coffee is from Terawinch Amukeni. This is the best coffee from this round of cappings. Terawinch. Asante. Your Excellency, we also have coffees that were here competing internally for their countries, and it would be our pleasure if you could also hand over the country certificates for Zambia and Cameroon. For Zambia, the first position is Oram. So I think Oram was also number 2. Kachipapa was number 3. Number 4 was Kachipapa. Number 5 was Ribbon Hope. And those are the top 5 from Zambia. Those are the competitions from Zambia. So, that is the national competition for Zambia. So all of them are Zambian. Thank you. Then we had a national competition here, but this time for Cameroon coffee. And so we asked Michael to pick the first position was UCCAO. Number 2, number 3 are all the same, UCCAO. Number 4 was Pierre Andrew, okay. Number 5 is NWCA Limited Coffee. And number 6 from Cameroon was NWCA. Those are the coffees that competed from Cameroon, and we would like to have them handed over to the chairman. Thank you very much. Finally, but not least, we also had the baristas competing here on the first day to see who makes the best cup of coffee in terms of presentation. Number 3 came from Uganda, Mr. Michael Karoch. Michael. Number 2 was from Tanzania, Deus Kivamba. Michael from Uganda was number 3. Number 2 was Deus. And number 1 in terms of cup preparation was Jairos Joseph from Tanzania also. Thank you very much. It's our pleasure. We have been able to recognize the best coffees and some of the best baristas. Nawashukuru sana.
That was Samueli Kemau, the executive director of Afca, reading out the number of winners. You know, we had different kind of categories, but the final one was a lot much more touching, having these kind of baristas competing. And we got 2 guys all the way from Tanzania taking the first and second position, and we got the 3rd one coming all the way from Uganda. And for the time being, we got a thing that is going to happen very soon, but it's like after the very lovely kind of speech that we had from the guest of honor, and then now the executive director continues up delivering something. So we got a very important kind of notice in here. Let's also take back in here, see, to see what is happening. We still got some few things that needs to be handed over. I can see now the high table is all standing up. But as we told you that we got some issues with the microphones that are being used right there. So this microphone that the executive director is using right now is not really performing well for us, but what is happening right now, we got some special kind of gifts that have been set ready by Afca to make sure that it all goes to the special guests that have been invited. So it's like the whole high table also gets some sort of gifts as well for them as well. I wish one comes to me as well, but it's not going to work as well, as well. Has been quite a lovely day, very strong kind of commemoration. Hopefully this is going to revamp up the coffee market, not simply in Zanzibar, Tanzania, but it's going to work for the whole Africa and the whole world at large. We just have got to keep recommending the kind of remarks that the guest of honor made, that as we keep focusing so much in trying to improve up the kind of consumption, we also need to focus on making sure that the productivity of coffee also rises up in a way like. So the executive director is just winding up, and after this we'll see what is going to be like the next thing. But we're also going to be inviting some of the expertise in here, and we'll be also trying to check who else will be available and what sort of experts we'll be having in here, and we'll be still trying to bring you out whatever sort of events that will be still happening right here as well. Anyway, as you can see, some events happening, and we are just getting ready for a short kind of break. We still have got the photographing kind of program. They will also have a bit of like lunch break here and there, and the executive directors just and a heavy round of applause is being requested up by the MC of the whole event.
Tunawashukuru sana viongozi pamoja na wote tulioshiriki na kama
wait up for what's going to be like the next thing that is going to take place in here. Remember, it's all about a very special kind of event that is trying to look into how do we revamp up or expand up the coffee market, not simply in Zanzibar, Tanzania, but in the whole world generally. But this is basically focusing on what has to happen in Africa. So Dan, do you have a word on that?
What to add is, I saw the many segments that have been participated here, but as you said before, there's the untouchable one, the one who gives certificate to our winners yesterday. Tanzania, although from Tanzania, 2 people just take a certificate here to be the winner of the competition how to make a coffee, a cappuccino coffee. This is very interesting, and we can say in one word, in English we can say is a fabulous event today. And I think that now we are just preparing for other segment and to share coffee with the Chief Honor and Guest of Honors to share coffee with us and to proceed with other things.
Beautiful. We are currently heading for a very short break, and you remember we have a very strong kind of memories that these people have been doing such a great job in trying to make sure that the coffee drinking culture in Africa is also getting much more very strong as well. And for this kind of moment right now, we'll be trying also to get in touch with some of the very popular kind of people here that have been trying to host up this kind of program, and has really been such a very beautiful kind of day. And remember, we just started all the way from yesterday, and today we're just trying to slightly wind up on whatever has been happening. But it's all about the coffee culture. It's a thing that is going to be getting really popular and popular, as currently people are getting into the coffee break, and this is going to be quite an exciting moment. People have been seated for quite a few hours, and currently they're all like anxious and trying to get whatever is possible to go and have a bit of break as well. We're still right here. And the next event is going to be like some pictures, like group pictures with everybody happening in here. And we got quite lots of people like gathered in here. And after this kind of photo shooting like program, we'll be having all right, there are some changes here. So we're firstly going for a coffee break, then afterwards we will come and do the group pictures afterwards. But for the time being, we're not going to do the photo shooting, but we'll just do a bit of short kind of interviews in here, and later on we'll get back here ready for the photo shooting sanctions. And for the time being, we got the executive director of Afca right here. We just want to have a little bit of a word with him. And okay, my camera person is directing me that we need to have the background of Africa, that we can at least have the best picture ever. Oh, beautiful. Can you see us well right here? Good. What a beautiful day. It's all about the coffee day, and we are particularly doing a very special moment kind of coffee. We have been focusing much more in trying to make sure that the consumption level grows up as long as coffee is concerned. It had been a very memorable kind of moment for Zanzibar. We're so much proud of that. How about you guys like Afca? How do you really look at this event, and what are your comments like on there? Come on.
We are very, very excited that we are able to discuss and bring local consumption to our people. We as Afca are intending to ensure that we are able to encourage the whole of the continent to start consuming our coffee in supporting our farmers to continue growing coffee. The international prices are quite low, and so it does not pay for us to keep exporting coffee when we can give our farmers better prices when we consume it locally.
From one of the trainers right here, he was much more focusing on the local income kind of customers, and he looked at that being like a very special thing that would make the market internally to grow bigger. Yes. Would this help in any form to you, Afca?
Yes. Currently, we export our green coffees very cheaply abroad. The prices are as low as $1 per pound of coffee, which accounts to about $10 per 60 kilogram bag, and this is very, very low. We are able to give our farmers better price if our income earners are also nearer to the farmer. So the farmer should be taught how to roast the coffee, make it available. It will also create employment for our youth, because the youth are the best people to prepare and serve coffee. We believe this is a very great opportunity for entrepreneurship and for our youth to be involved.
The Honorable Minister also commenced a little bit on not simply focusing on the consumption level, but we also have to look into the production level. Yes. Will this have anything to change up your programs in the future to make sure that Africa becomes one of the great producers when it comes to coffee production?
Very true. We believe strongly that all we need to do is give the prices, better prices to our farmer, and if we give better prices to the farmers, they will be able to grow more coffee. So we believe strongly that if we consume our coffee and the farmer get a better price from us, he will continue to grow more coffee. He will want to grow more and more coffee if the price is right. And that's our theory, and that's our assumption when we are promoting local consumption.
We got some countries that are quite ahead. If you look at Brazil, they are quite somewhere above. But in Africa and per se, we will be looking at Ethiopia. And for East Africa, we got Kenyans leading. But we still have got a good number of countries that are not really doing fair. And do you have anything that would really revamp up the kind of production into these countries that are still not in the list?
Oh yes. We need every African country consuming coffee. And based on the openness of the borders that has been approved by the African Union recently, the treaty has been signed, so we should be able even to export our coffee to other African countries so that we make sure that they are getting to consume coffee. It will be cheaper for us to export coffee to our brothers in Africa rather than have them buy the way they buy from Europe. So our coffee usually goes to Europe, then is exported back to Africa at a much higher price. So we are intending to encourage domestic selling to other countries within Africa.
Beautiful. And for the time being, just before we release you out, we have a challenge with getting these equipments. We know you guys have been doing trainings here and there, but these equipments on how to make the best coffee is quite expensive for the local kind of people. Do you think they can really manage getting into this market and competing with the big producers or the big kind of coffee owners, whatever?
The equipment we are currently showing are very, very expensive equipment, but there are alternative ways to brew coffee, and now we are training our people to use the alternative methods so that as they grow they can be able to import the machines. For now, the duty and the price of the equipment will remain high, but there are quite a number of other ways to prepare coffee and still get the same high quality coffee.
One last word to the dear viewers now following us.
We encourage you to have the second cup of coffee today and onward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Thank you. All right, that was the executive director. We had him and we have been talking a lot about him. And for the time being, he's also getting a bit busy, and we are going to have like some sort of a break, and we'll be having some other prominent figures to go and talk to us a bit. and afterwards we'll be just getting back in here and we'll be talking to you as well. Alright, beautiful. After a very short break, currently we are so much honored having one of the directors from the Asas company. Hello, how are you doing, sir?
Fine, how are you?
Very fine, very fine. Been so far, I know we have been having you since yesterday and we are still having you today. Before we get back to the introduction part, I just want to know how you guys feeling like.
I'm actually very happy with how the event has been organized. It's one of my first coffee expo that I've been attending and Asas have been attending. Not only attending as a director but as partners of African Coffee Association. We're really happy on how it's been organized, and first expo ever in Africa been done in Tanzania. Yes, so we are really honored, and we hope it continues in different parts of Tanzania regions, especially in the Southern Highlands in Iringa, where Asas Dairies is coming from, and we also have a lot of coffee producers on the Southern Highlands. We hope to continue the partnership with African Coffee Association to finish the rest of the event until in the evening.
That's how he opens his talk. He's one of the directors from Asas, one of the companies that does lots of production, especially when it comes to beautiful, perfect, high quality kind of milk. Beautiful. Now let's get back to the point. Yesterday we had a bit of chats between you and me, but the dear viewers are really anxious to know a bit what's all about Asas and how is Asas connected to what is happening here today.
Asas is an organization of Asas Group with 6 companies, but today I'll speak about Asas Dairies. With Asas Dairies, we have just introduced our new product, that is Asas UHT milk. It means ultra high temperature heated. The shelf life of this milk is 6 months, and you can store it in room temperature. Yes, you don't have to refrigerate it. You can refrigerate it if you want to serve your milk cold. We have introduced this Asas UHT milk because of the target market in Tanzania. We know that a lot of remote areas, a lot of people don't afford fridge, and electricity have not reached a lot of remote areas. So by introducing Asas full cream UHT milk with room temperature, we hope and we know that in future the milk consumption in Tanzania will rise very high and very quickly. This is 500 liters milk. It's so affordable. It's 1,500 in retail shops. We're also going to introduce 1 liter in the near future in December, we hope, with the same UHT milk of 6 years shelf life.
Beloved, one of the directors, he is fluent, very friendly, and we also heard that you also sponsored up this event.
Yes, we have partnered 3 years. Yes, with African Coffee Association. We'll be giving them milk in all the expos they'll be going. We're really happy that all the baristas are happy with their milk.
Beautiful.
Yes, they have tested the coffees, the creamer, and we're really proud. Yes, Tanzanian product.
Beautiful.
We'll go all over Africa.
Lovely. One last word to our dear viewers. We've got lots of people following us live today, and I'm a bit honored staying next to one of the directors. One last word to them as well.
I like to tell the Zanzibar people to see more of our products. You have very beautiful islands. It's my third time, but this time I've been staying for longer. I see the views, the museum, and I've heard about Nungwi, Paje Beach. So as ASAS director, I assure you that I'll be the Zanzibar ambassador, especially in the tourism industry.
Thank you very much. We are honored to have great time with you. Please enjoy the rest of your moments. I know you are really having lots of things to be covered over. And would you please leave this with me?
Yes, sure.
Thank you very much. Hey, this is a special gift all the way from the director. We are also very much honored, and we're soon going to be talking to a very big person. You know, they're like the hosters of this kind of event. And hey, can I please ask my cameraman at least getting closer to this man in here? Beautiful. Is everything well said? Beautiful. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
You're most welcome to our today's kind of show. Remember, we are very live right now, and we're having all the audience trying to follow us right here. And firstly, I'm very bad at names. Would you firstly get this time at least introducing yourself to the dear viewers right here?
Okay. My name is Frederick Kauma. I am from Uganda. I right now live in Ivory Coast in Abidjan. I serve as the Secretary General of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization.
Guys, did you hear that all? The Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Association. Beautiful. Organization. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We would love to hear a little bit. You know, we have seen a lot happening in here. Would you please just tell us in brief what's really happening here? What brings all these people from different countries here today?
Africa Coffee Organization, an intergovernmental Tanzania, in fact at that time it was Tanganyika, was one of the founder members of this organization. The governor, at that time the governor was representing, in fact represented Tanganyika, Kenya and Uganda in the creation of this organization in Madagascar, December 1960.
Guys, you get histories here. You get histories now from one of the great people that have all the right information. He's carrying on, giving us the background, then we get up to the trend and see what's there to come as well.
So in 1960, when the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization was created, it was to help the newly independent African countries to deal with issues of the coffee production, the processing and marketing of the coffee, and at that time negotiation of quotas, helping African countries get access to markets. But not right now, we see a new trend in the global coffee fraternity. In fact, in those days we used to see that the Western countries, Northwestern Europe and America as being the key markets of coffee. But right now things have changed. Africa now is producing and exporting coffee, but we find that it also imports coffee. It exports coffee which is in raw form, and then imports coffee, finished coffee, and we find that Africa is consuming more coffee today than it is producing. But now the question is, if Africa is consuming coffee and yet it is still exporting coffee, what is the problem? So the issue is, there is an issue of transformation of the African coffee value chain. That transformation is urgently required right now so that it can help in stabilization of the producer prices in Africa.
Are the Africans generally ready for that? In a way, as you see, we know you have done some researches here and there.
Yes. What it is there are a lot of policy issues to address in Africa in order for us to have this quantum leap, what I would call the quantum leap. Because we are now talking about promoting consumption in Africa. In order to have consumption in Africa, just like we see has happened in Brazil, and I will tell you, in Brazil they have a population of just over 200 million, 211 million to be precise according to the current estimates. But Brazil consumes about 1.4 million tons of coffee. the 200 million people consume more than 1.4 million tons of coffee.
Guys, are you following all the statistics? Remember, these are facts, and we are talking out of researches, and we are getting it from the horse mouth. Yes, come on.
When we look at Africa, we have a population of 1.3 billion, as we are told today. And of this 1.3 billion, even if you say, oh, some of them are poor people, they tell us, experts tell us, that the estimate of the middle class in Africa is over 350 million. That is more than the population of Brazil, who are consuming more than 1.4 million tons of coffee. In Africa, we are consuming less than 700,000 tons of coffee, which means we are consuming less than half of what Brazil consumes, and yet they have a smaller population. So you see, it just shows us the great potential in Africa. So there's potential for entrepreneurship development in Africa to take advantage of this opportunity. You know, entrepreneurship is about taking, first of all, identification of business opportunity. Then you need to have creativity and innovation to take advantage of these opportunities. So what we see now in Africa are emerging opportunities for entrepreneurship development.
What we see now in Africa is like an emerging opportunity for entrepreneurship. We would love to hear a little bit about how do we place Africa into the category like where the Brazilians are. So far we know that we have something very nice happening in Ethiopia. The coffee market has really grown up. Kenya, according to the kind of data that we had yesterday, like they have gone up for like over 100%. Yeah. But I'm worried about the rest of the countries. Do you have any kind of program that you guys are planning to do to revamp up the productivity? Then we talk about consumption in these countries, forgetting about Kenya, but also forgetting about Ethiopia.
Well, the issue of productivity in Africa is critical because Africa is known as the least efficient producer. Talk about agriculture. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking of food crops or even the cash crops, or talk about coffee or, you know, produce or bananas, whatever. So we have got to address the issue of efficiency, of productivity in Africa. And as the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, support to raise funds systematically over the next 10 years. We are working on this, and actually next week we have an event where we will have partners and donors who will be giving us their play. How they are going to support us in addressing that. But right now, we are talking of how we can promote consumption. And the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, in partnership with the International Coffee Organization, we have now launched a program of promoting domestic consumption. Because of the depressed prices here in the producing countries, in Africa in particular, it means that our farmers are getting very low prices. But yesterday we were told...
this is discouraging them in a way.
It discourages them. Yesterday we were told that in Nairobi, in Kenya actually, a cup of coffee goes for between $2 and $4 in different towns in Nairobi. Yeah. Now, even if you said that a cup of coffee would be said $2, and this is possible in most of the urban centers, $2 for a cup of coffee. Now in Tanzania, that is about 5,000 right. Tanzania shillings for a good cup of coffee. Now, if a consumer in Tanzania pays 5,000 shillings for a cup of coffee, imagine if that coffee is coming from a farmer, from a farm in Tanzania, and the farmer is able to get a good portion of that price. That would be fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, that cup of coffee only it only represents like 100% of a kilo of coffee. So it means the potential for improving the welfare of our farmers is great if we can address the issue of consumption, promoting the domestic consumption in Africa. We don't need to worry about the Mzungus and so forth. Just we
can
ourselves,
be self-reliant.
We are able to improve our markets, to improve the welfare of our producers by consuming the coffee here. And also, by the way, the value chain means employment.
Beautiful.
It means the people who are roasting coffee are going to employ people. The people who are distributing coffee are going to employ people. There will be warehouses, there will be transportation, there will be so many services.
The field of kind of employment.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Has been so much lovely. I know you guys are never getting tired to listen to this guy here. And remember, what just try to imagine what have you been missing by not being in this kind of part as well. Maybe one last word now to our dear viewers, and we know we got lots of potential guys that are also hoping to get into this business as well. What do you want to tell them?
What I would tell them is, please ignore the negative stories that are talked about coffee. Because some people say coffee is bad for your health, it can make you sick and whatever. Those are negative stories which are meant to discourage us from consuming coffee. But we have experts, even African experts, who have done research showing us that consumption of coffee actually is so I encourage you, let's consume our coffee.
Thank you very much for taking time and sharing with us. Asante sana. Enjoy the rest of your stay in here, as you have been welcomed by the minister concerning the guest of honor of us today as well. Beloved, that was Frederick Kawuma, as you have heard him talking a lot about coffee and all the kind of events that have been taking place in here. And we are currently going to join up a very important person all the way from Brazil for the time being. And just for the time being, we'll be having a very short kind of break for like a minute or two, and then we'll be getting up here and we'll be continuing with quite much more kind of interviews. We got lots of very important people in here, and we'll be having to talk to them a little bit just after the break.
you or to the camera?
Bora tazame hivi akinitazama mimi Good. Just after the break, as I promised you earlier, that we'll be having a very important person that we'll be talking to. And it's all about trying to talk about how to expand up the consumption as we are talking about the coffee market in Africa. He's firstly going to introduce up himself. As you know, I'm always very bad when it comes to names. So we got to listen to him. Firstly, he will be telling us who he is and what makes him to be here right now as well. You're most welcome, sir. How are you doing first?
Thank you. My name is José Sete. I am the Executive Director of the International Coffee Organization, and it's an honor to be here in Tanzania.
Did you guys get that? He's the International Executive Director. Beautiful. What a great honor that I must say I'm having this morning, at least having him right here as well. Beautiful. What makes you...
Oh, the invitation from the African Fine Coffees Association. Africa is one of the future of coffee. There's a lot of potential growth, but there are a lot of challenges also. So we have to work hard on overcoming these challenges. Yes, overcome the challenges. Yeah.
Beautiful. We also heard you giving up a very lovely kind of lecture, but as you have also mentioned that we still got some challenges as we are talking about how to expand up the coffee market in Africa. And the truth is the coffee drinking culture is not that much as you compare to some other places like Brazil and elsewhere. And what do you think needs to be done in Africa to make sure that we bring that platform and have the market at least growing into the required rate?
Well, you have to work on all fronts. You can work on the top end of the market where the coffee is more costly, but that is a restricted amount. And we have to work also on the more popular low-cost coffee, and I think here one of the great examples is what's happening in Asia, where there's a growing popularity of what's called a 3-in-1 coffee, which is...
We would love to hear about
which is, there are little sachets which have a instant coffee, non-dairy creamer, and a sweetener. And all you have to do is rip open the sachet, put in the powder, and pour hot water over it, and it's very easy to prepare. It's a great way to introduce people who are not used to drinking coffee to the coffee beverage. Yeah.
As I was tentatively following up the kind of training that was happening this morning, you also talked a little bit about investing into the low-income kind of market, low-income population, which is not always the case. That most of the coffee kind of sailors, they'll be focusing on people with money to have good profit at once. This idea really work, and how are you prepared to go and change up the mentality of the coffee sailors? Forget about the growers.
Well, I think each country has to develop its own strategies. Each country knows its own situation better than I do sitting in an office in London. And but what I can say is coffee is a beautiful beverage, and it has attracted people from all over the world, even in countries that are more traditionally tea-drinking countries. So the future is very bright.
Beautiful. It's for the first time that we are hosting such an event in Zanzibar, and currently we are glad to say that the government has opened up the door. We could hear it from the minister. But what do you think Zanzibar needs to do more to make sure that we get to that level that you guys are dreaming to see Africa generally going to, specifically talking about Zanzibar from that angle as well?
Well, I'm not here to give lectures to the government of Zanzibar or Tanzania about what they need to do, because like I said, they know, you know your internal reality much better than us. But what stands out is the fact that increasing internal consumption of coffee is a way to add value to coffee and a way to keep the income generated by coffee inside the country. It's a fantastic strategy.
Beautiful. We're so much pleasure to have you around. Maybe last word now to the dear viewers who are following us right now here.
Well, like I said, the consumption of coffee in Africa is still at a very low level, but that also means that there is a great potential for increase. So we all have to work hard on making this into a reality, and it will take time, but it will benefit everybody in the supply chain.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Keep enjoying Zanzibar. Oh wow, guys! You know what this means? I'll be able to get in touch with him directly. Thank you very much. Good. We also have got a very important person as well, who is just winding his cup of coffee, and I guess he's going to give me some as well. Oh, why did you leave that cup of coffee? I was eagerly waiting for it, sir.
The coffee was very good, but I was worried too.
Oh, look at him.
That means it's good.
He finished up the whole thing. Oh, mamma mia. All right. My name is Simon, all the way from Ktv Tz Online, and currently we are going to live right now, and we got people following us right now all over the world. Firstly, I just feel and what makes you here as well?
Okay, my name is Carlos Brando, and I'm here as a person who has worked with promoting coffee consumption around the world.
Mr. Brando, where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
From Brazil, all the way from Brazil to Zanzibar.
From Brazil to Zanzibar.
Anyway, firstly, how often have you been coming to Zanzibar?
Well, to Zanzibar is the first time, and it was one of my dreams.
Beautiful. To Tanzania?
I've been some 10 or 15 times in Tanzania.
10 or 15 times, but not being to Zanzibar?
Yes, because I have a different business. We sell machines to farmers in Tanzania and to traders. It's called Pinhalense. Pinhalense.
Pinhalense. I'm not sure even.
That's the coffee machinery. That's Portuguese.
Beautiful. It's for the first time.
But I'm here as, in this case, to talk about how to help Africa increase coffee consumption.
Beautiful point. And it's for the first time that we're hosting such a thing in Zanzibar. As you have just acknowledged that this is also first time coming in here, regardless of what has been bringing you to Tanzania. But today we are specifically talking about coffee, and in a special way, coffee kind of consumption.
Yeah, that's the reason I came here, invited by Afca, and it was a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Are you seriously seeing the green future as you speak of coffee consumption in Tanzania and Africa generally?
I think there is a green future if you keep in mind that for consumption to grow, you have to take it to the base of the pyramid. That's the people on the street. You have to think how to take coffee to the local community, the local shops, and make it accessible to people. That's the key to the thing. I know coffee shops are a great thing, but they mostly appeal to the higher income population.
That's the wrong thing.
How do we, I think it's right, it's not really wrong, but we have to use that example to take it down. Like in Brazil, we are using the bakeries that are everywhere. Every town has many, and we convince them to improve the quality of their coffee. In Colombia, 70% of the coffee is bought in corner stores, small shops. And so we are training the shopkeepers about quality of coffee so that they can explain to the consumers, because a shopkeeper, unlike a supermarket, you go to a supermarket, you never talk to the cashier. But you go to a corner store, you talk to the shopkeeper, and he is an opinion maker. If he can say, drink more coffee because coffee is good for your health, you will disseminate this much faster and you make it more fashionable. Another thing is that, for instance, the Chinese are doing very well. In China, because the Chinese are tea drinkers, just like East Africans. And so what the Chinese are saying, tea is the drink of the grandparents and the parents.
Serious?
And coffee is the drink of the youngsters. And you could technically do the same thing here. And if you do it, because if it's fashionable for the youngster to drink coffee, you really increase consumption.
Good. From the morning training, I heard something about the usage of power of the social medias, WhatsApp, Facebook, I don't know, YouTube, whatever. Will this have any strong impact in expanding up the market?
Absolutely, because when we promote coffee consumption, the basic instrument, because we can't afford advertising in a conventional, we can't go to countrywide TV or to magazines because it's very expensive. Not expensive for the business, but if we can get a TV program where they interview coffee people and they talk about coffee, and if you can get a video on YouTube, if you can get it on Instagram, it's much cheaper. So we try to use what we call PR, public relations, and we try to get influential people, a TV star, or a doctor saying coffee is good for your health, and using it to disseminate. I know TV does a great job, but it's even greater if we can get on TV for free. I know your bosses are not going to like that. You're saying you're interviewing the wrong people. But that's for the big multinationals and the coffee brands like Nestle. They're big advertisers. But when you talk of taking coffee to low-income people, you don't have a lot of budget. And PR is a great, and PR has changed because before it was PR only on TV and the magazines. Now it's PR on digital media.
Beautiful. I presuppose you have enjoyed this, and now we are really lying out of time lag, and currently we are going for the other kind of event. Thank you very much for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Hope to see you again.
Thank you. Okay, fine. And for the time being, we got Ahmed right here, and he got something to talk about.
We are just here, my fellow presenter. We are here just for closing this event because we said time was rushing. Now it's time for lunch, and we do everything. So if you have something you can add, and you are the first one to make this proudly, to make this very, very successful. Thank you for that. So thank you for joining us. We like the people who are streaming to us, and all the one who are not getting time to looking fast, but they can see this streamly in YouTube channel Ktv Tz Online. Can I welcoming you, Mr., for just closing?
Beautiful. Just one last word. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. It had been quite a very lovely kind of moment. We have really seriously enjoyed up your presence, and you got one thing to do. You got to click up the like button, you got to click up the sharing button, but also don't forget to subscribe it up. My name is Simon Charles Kisins, and this was Ktv Tz Online. Thank you, and join us some other day as well.
Omari na Shabani ndio alikuwa nako vinana ndio alonulia mwanangu.
Kwa jina naitwa Moza Mohamed Said.
Saif Mohamed Saif.
Khamis Khair Hassan.
Gharib.
Kiongo ananiambia mnanipa majini, mimi kiongo ananiambia kama nyinyi mnaniroga.
Yale maneno yametoka mdomoni kwa mtu. Na mimi maneno ninosema yanatoka mdomoni mwangu.
Mwanangu naona ananiambia kaliwa na paka.
Paka dume.
Karibu katika channel yetu ya Ktv Tz Online kupata taarifa mbalimbali, makala, vipindi pamoja na matukio mbalimbali. Usisahau kusubscribe kisha bonyeza alama ya kengele ili kuwa kwanza kupata taarifa zetu. Ktv Tz Online, hakika hii ni fahari yetu.